Dear netizens, I just recorded a video earlier. I mentioned that I would give you all an answer later. As for why, at times, our concern or care for certain specific people can seem disproportionate or out of balance. Is this, perhaps, a kind of double standard? I can tell you this is something we're born with. I often use an example. It's something I read in a book. He said that if one person went to a meeting, the purpose of the meeting is to figure out how to raise money to save tens of thousands of children in Africa. On the way there, he saw a dog that had been hit by a car. He should go and help the dog. Or should he go to the meeting to save the children in Africa? In theory, if you look at it from a utilitarian point of view, he should go to the meeting, no matter how badly the dog is hurt. But that's not the case. A lot of people, from a moral standpoint, feel that you should go save the dog. And a lot of people do go and save the dog. So do you think that makes him a hypocrite? This is just like when the mainland demanded Hong Kong's return on that day. Everyone rushed out to buy newspapers. It's not about the mainland wanting Hong Kong to return. It's about Zhao Yaji's adultery scandal. Why is that? Because that's just how we're wired genetically, by nature. For millions of years, we've all lived in communities of 20 or 30 people. At most, 20 or 30 people. So what really matters to you? It's what you see with your own eyes. Not something happening far away. When you hear secondhand from someone else, you don't really feel any empathy. It's only things that come close to you. Things you see and experience for yourself. Like a photo. A baby tragically drowned in the sea. Like the Syrian refugees back then, a photo can stir up compassion all over the world. And the closer someone really is to you, looks like yours, the stronger your reaction will be. That's just a natural response, really. After I answered this question, I'll say it again. This time, what I'm talking about is Biden. A book was just published called Original Sin. This book was originally written, in fact, by people who support the Democratic Party. It asks, so, why did Trump win last time, after all? Well, they put the blame on Biden. They say the biggest issue is Biden is already, undeniably, suffering from cognitive decline. And he tries to hide his own mental deterioration. Especially since the blame was placed on him, he needs to take responsibility. His wife also needs to be held accountable. His close team is also responsible. They all covered it up. They kept consistently building up the idea, over time, that he could be re-elected. Right up until the very last moment, when hiding was impossible, they switched to Harris. But by then, it was too late. That's why the Democratic Party suffered such a crushing defeat, which led to the situation we have today, with Trump back as president. It has dealt a serious blow to American democracy and the rule of law, and to America's allies around the world. Right, I'll listen to the facts he's presenting. Today's video is divided into 3 parts. Let me start by talking about the facts they're mentioning. The evidence cited in this book is as follows. Part 1. At the time, he was asked why he kept that document. Su Jing, a prosecutor from the Department of Justice, he went to ask Biden. He found that Biden couldn't even answer many very basic questions. For example, the year his son passed away. It's May 30th. He couldn't even remember. Which month did he say it was? He was reminded that it was 2015. He asked again, was it 2015? Ask him why he keeps the documents, please. Biden said, I don't remember. Biden also couldn't quite remember exactly what year Trump was first elected. He got it wrong and said it was 2017. Later, he said that wasn't right. That was when he was sworn in. And his thoughts are completely scattered. As he kept talking, he suddenly started talking about the importance of Gutenberg inventing the printing press. The author of the book then went on to interview 100 to 200 people who are close to Biden. Tell me about his day. Although Biden is no longer president, many people are still unwilling to speak the truth, but some people have vaguely hinted at a few things. For example, they feel uneasy about scheduling Biden for long working hours. He was only allowed to work from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day. That's the first point. The second point is that his speeches had to be kept as short as possible, and it depends on the draft. He would read from the teleprompter during his speeches. And they said that if he fell again, even just once more, they were afraid he'd end up in a wheelchair. They hope that if he does end up in a wheelchair, it'll be after he's reelected. They made him special shoes. Now, he wears hiking shoes everywhere he goes. I heard him say that wearing those shoes would keep him from falling. That's why I went and bought a pair of hiking boots myself. I even bought 2 more pairs recently. I think those shoes are, in my opinion, way better than Nike's. His thoughts just kept on jumping, all over the place, it seemed. Unable to focus. He forgets even very important things. One of the most well-known incidents is this one. George Clooney went with him to a fundraising event. He didn't recognize George Clooney. This led George Clooney to write an open letter, asking him to withdraw from the election. The last straw on the camel's back, the final one that ultimately broke the camel. That was just his debate with Trump, you know. He said, we had already beaten Medicare. There were a lot of embarrassing moments, a whole series of incidents. Biden doesn't even recognize Sullivan, not even a little. And his wife and the people around him kept covering it up. Plus, he himself was willing. So they arranged for him to run for re-election. But when it could no longer be hidden, that's when they put Kamala Harris forward. Because there was no time for primaries. The biggest problem with putting Kamala Harris forward is she can't win over the public because there was no primary process. She was just directly appointed. The second issue is, if you have a primary process, someone might have come forward, just like how Obama truly emerged back then, in those days, and beat Hillary. But Kamala Harris herself just isn't capable enough. So he believes Biden should be held responsible for this disaster. But Biden doesn't see it that way. Biden thinks it has nothing to do with him, because by the time he withdrew from the race, he already had a strong presidential candidate, Kamala Harris. And at that time, there were enough funds for Harris to run her campaign. We'll talk more about that later. After stepping down, Biden was interviewed by the BBC. He said that Trump's victory was undoubtedly not, by any means, his personal responsibility at all. He mainly criticized Trump on several points. To begin with, he made the statement that Donald Trump, the former president of the United States, does not offer his support to Ukraine, according to his own words. This is a modern form of appeasement. He said that if you think Putin will stop here, you're just being foolish. He also criticized Trump's approach. It damaged the relationship between the United States and its allies. Everyone knows that Biden has gone to great lengths to repair relations with Europe. Let me wrap up with a few words. Suppose you're someone who, maybe, just likes Trump. You might feel that Trump's victory is a good thing for the United States. If you're someone who, for example, doesn't like Trump, would you maybe think that this is Biden's mistake, which led to Trump's election? This issue isn't that simple. Let's take a look for a moment. If we look at it in the long run, the Trump phenomenon, when did it really break out? The reason for this goes back a very long time and has been established over many years. There is a deep, historical explanation behind it that has persisted and influenced things for quite some time. Because of global integration. There are a few things. The backlash against global integration. because of global integration. Some people ended up being hurt by it, especially in the Rust Belt. The second point is the backlash against progressive ideas, like issues specifically around gay men and women, and things like, for example, transgender participation in women's sports, and so on. The third is a backlash against current and ongoing immigration issues. A reactionary stance on immigration. These phenomena aren't just happening in the United States. It's the same in many developed Western countries, really. Next, let's talk about the rise in crime, the increase in homelessness, and ultimately, it's about inflation. From 2022, 2023 to 2024, inflation still hasn't been brought under control, along with the issue of high interest rates. What people care about most, it's always the same two issues. One is unemployment, and the other is inflation. Unemployment means he doesn't have a job. Inflation causes him to buy things. He feels like he never has enough money to spend. This is what's called the misery index. Back at the end of President Carter's term, inflation had actually climbed to over 10%. Unemployment was also above 10%. Now, let's take a look at all the developed countries. In 2020, 2021, and 2022, the ruling political parties at the time were all completely ousted, including the Conservative Party in the UK, the Conservative Party in Australia, simply. Canada's Liberals left the woods, but in the end, Trump saved them. All those in power. Macron in France, as you may know, lost control of Parliament. Actually, whenever inflation gets this high, 7 to 8%, and interest rates are rising this quickly, it's already very unfavorable for the ruling party. This is a short-term reason, really. And in fact, public opinion in the United States shows this is the number one concern. The second concern is, in particular, the issue of illegal immigration. Actually, the problem of illegal immigration and public safety, there's actually no direct connection. When you see a decline in public safety, usually the people sleeping on the streets aren't illegal immigrants. And those who smash up other people's cars, smashing car in California, most of them are really troubled youth. But they're jealous of the benefits that illegal immigrants get. Diluted their welfare. That's true. This is what Germany's AfD is about. The Reform Party in Britain. Marine Le Pen. They're all talking about the same thing. Especially the widespread and growing fear of Islamic immigrants, in particular, which is relatively rare in the United States. In the US, the current focus is primarily on people who are coming from countries such as Venezuela, El Salvador, and other similar places in Central and South America. Global integration, worldwide. And in Europe, the embodiment of global integration is opposition to the EU, national pride, promoting your own nation, looking out for yourself only. These issues most certainly have their roots. And Trump is focused, in particular, on the expression of these phenomena. In the 2024 election, if it weren't for Kamala Harris, who else could beat Trump? I couldn't think of anyone either. There really isn't anyone in the Democratic Party who can step up and lead. Strictly speaking, Trump is the kind of person. He came forward as a representative of social phenomena and social demands. In fact, under a democratic system, we need to find ways to address these social demands. It's about that global integration. Those workers who used to be in manufacturing, reduced income care, whether it's in Canada or the United States. In any case, there needs to be some response to both illegal and legal immigration, to a certain extent by restricting and reducing it, in order to lessen the resentment among local residents. These are areas where tougher policies need to be put in place. The Conservative Party in Britain also failed. Even though the British Conservative Party has already taken a relatively tough stance on immigration, However, the Reform Party in the UK has been even tougher. Public safety is a very complex issue. I wonder why there are so many people sleeping rough. Those sleeping on the streets aren't outsiders. Most of them are drug addicts. And as for drug addicts, you give him a house a little farther away. They won't live there. They sleep rough outside. This is mostly the case in the United States and Canada. A lot. How to say? Why is there an increase in people sleeping on the streets? This is because of 2020, 2021, and 2022. The post-traumatic effects of the pandemic are quite severe. What about public safety issues? Is it because the Democratic Party has been lenient and allowed people to break the law? Do you think the left is letting others break the law? It is important to recognize that, in certain situations, those on the political left are also capable of advocating for, or even demanding, the implementation of stronger law and order policies, just as those on the right sometimes do. The issue is that maintaining law and order costs money. Are people willing to pay more taxes for that? For example, in 5 Nordic countries, this time, I'll take a look. Crime rate in Sweden. It has surged in recent years. But in Denmark, Finland, and Iceland, things are fine. People in Germany told me they don't think it's serious either. So there's no inevitable connection here either, especially when it comes to law and order issues in the United States. Most of the responsibility falls on state and municipal governments. This issue, in particular, even if Trump becomes president again, California continues to be governed by the Democratic Party, although they've shifted a bit to the right as well. In this situation, with Trump coming to power, has there been any improvement in public safety in San Francisco? I specifically asked people online, and it seems like things have improved a little. What did Trump do? That led to a slight improvement in law and order in San Francisco. This question can't really be answered for certain. The only thing Trump actually accomplished was a reduction in the number of new illegal immigrants coming in. His real achievement was a 90% reduction. That's because the border was tightly guarded, but the people who made it across actually rarely broke the law. Very few of them were offenders. Most of them just came here to work. No matter what. I'm not trying to bring up any controversial issues. Lately, I have been getting the impression that President Biden's mental faculties and cognitive abilities might be starting to decline, and it seems more noticeable to me as time goes on. He should have stopped running long ago. That's the truth. In modern American history, there was only one president who should have given up running for re-election. And that was Johnson. Because things were extremely divided back then, mainly due to the anti-Vietnam War movement. As for Biden's mental state in particular, you should have decided early on not to run. The Democrats should have held primaries. But would that have stopped Trump from becoming president? I'm doubtful, because who in the Democratic Party can actually win?